What is up, everyone? Welcome into the Fight HQ Q&A for UFC Vegas number 67, which all goes down to just under an hour from now. We appreciate you tuning in here on a Saturday afternoon. You know, Pete. You know I love me some afternoon MMA. Give me more afternoon MMA all the time.
Oh, absolutely, especially for me, like, working grave shift in addition to the gym. It's like, yeah, now I get some. I'm off tonight, so I'm happy regardless. But I'm always happy and thankful whenever we have some daytime MMA. There's nothing going on, and I'm not I don't even know. Is college football still going on? Is that done? I don't know the timeline on any of that, bro.
College football is done. I have a feeling I know what you're doing tonight, along with watching UFC. I'm guessing we got another TV going with that Charger game.
Oh, I'm probably gonna have the fights on my phone and my Chargers, on the TV. So I can't wait. And yeah, it's just gonna be nice. I'm gonna be able to kick back and everything worked out. I didn't even realize the Chargers were on tonight. But me being off of work, it's gonna I feel spoiled. I got fights and my Chargers. I can't wait. And thanks for tuning in, everybody. What's up? Happy Saturday.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a weird weekend for me because the Bucks don't play till Monday night, so it's kind of it's that odd of just chilling around the house. I'm doing the cleaning the garage out this afternoon after the show's over. What? Had the TV on in the garage and watching these fights. But of course, we appreciate everyone tuning in. Huge thanks to everyone who checked out yesterday's show. All the likes and comments, man. Really do appreciate that. Much appreciated. Of course, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Myself and Pete will be here every week for every UFC event. We got 10 UFC cards here in the next 11 weeks, so it's going to be busy here. Bellator's got some shows coming up. We'll have Bellator content, PFL content, Dana White Contender Series. When that stuff gets up and going, we'll have content for that as well. So appreciate everyone checking us out here. Of course, be sure to smash that thumbs up button. That truly does help us out. Of course, throw your questions into chat. We'll get into those questions over the next hour or so. But, Pete, when I was starting to hand build some lineups this morning, and particularly head-to-head type lineups, cash lineups, the one thing that really just stuck out to me was this under 8,000 because, we mentioned about there's two fights on this card that are clear fights that we want to attack. That being, first off, the Puna Soriano Roman Kopylov fight, and the other one being Claudio Ribeiro and Abdulrazak Alhassan. Those two fights are the under 7,000. I know a lot of people are going to look at Sean Strickland, and I found myself with the Sean Strickland thing is, I think in GPPs, I just want to be under the field on Sean Strickland. I think that ownership is going to be massive for Sean Strickland today. And look, I understand why you do it. I mean, 10-pound weight advantage. He's going to be the much bigger man. I would imagine he's probably going to be around 220 pounds by the time he walks into the cage tonight inside of the Apex. But, in terms of, I don't mind getting Strickland in cash, but after that, it's like, where do I go, Pete?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. It looked like 𝐉𝐸𝐽𝐻 was the bigger guy, which kind of blows my mind. 𝐉𝐸𝐽𝐻 clearly looks like he's in better shape than Strickland. He's been, training for this opportunity. He has a full camp. Sean Strickland just racked up his bike, needs some money, wants to stay active, spars and fights basically every single day anyway. So if he can make some money, he's going to do it. I was really impressed with 𝐉𝐸𝐽𝐻's shape. I thought that Strickland it's like, oh my God, this guy's this big. 𝐉𝐸𝐽𝐻 looked like a monster out there. So for ownership, I'm getting to Strickland just because it's a punt play. If this touches, the later rounds, he could do enough in a loss even. And I'm basically building for that today. I don't love a lot of the underdogs, and I just need some points, whether they win or they lose. I think it's just going to come down to unique lineup construction. So, and I kind of stacked some fights and some lineups as well, just because of, the limited sample size that we have for some of these other fighters making their debuts, in addition to some of these ugly underdogs that you have to back. And it's like, oh God. So I did end up stacking the 𝐉𝐸𝐽𝐻 Strickland fight just in several of my lineups within my 20 max, just because I don't necessarily love it. I'm pretty big on 𝐉𝐸𝐽𝐻, but if this is a patient fight and it's just a striker's delight, you could see a back and forth decision where Strickland pays off in a loss. I don't think he's going to win against 𝐉𝐸𝐽𝐻. It's going to be a tough task, but outside of that, right, you're going to be putting in some underdogs that you don't really have a ton of trust in, like Ribeiro, like Aguirre, And then, at the bottom, you got Fiore. You have Raoni Barcelos facing Umar Nurmagomedov. So it's like, I mean, at some point, you just have to put in an ugly underdog and just hope that they can come through for you. That is why I'm getting a little unique with it. And 7,100 Hernandez started to, find his way into a lot of my lineups just because I think that of all the fights, I can see that one going the distance and being relatively close if he's able to not get submitted. If he's able to just stay wise in the submission department, I can see, it being a close decision, not one that we necessarily agree with. But Hernandez is talented enough to make it competitive.
Yeah, we talked about, yesterday's show about the game theory, and a game theory that you used last month with Stephen Kozlow, where you were able to take down a tournament because the fact of, even though he lost that fight, he scored enough. And so that's where I started kind of looking down some of these fighters that are underneath 75, 7,400 and going, okay, which one of these fighters has that potential of, even in a loss, maybe they can get 50 points. I know yesterday you mentioned about maybe Raoni Barcelos, maybe he is that guy. Maybe there's some other guys, and that's when I was just kind of hand building some lineups. I was like, okay, where do I want to go? Who are some of those small guys I want to get to? And we got some questions over our Discord channel over the past 24 hours. And by the way, if you want to join our Discord channel, the link is below right here on YouTube. Free to join. We're building up that community. We love to have you talking the fights with us. Myself and Pete will be in there throughout the night with all these fights. So appreciate if you could join us over there on Discord. But of course, obviously, we appreciate you being here as well. I do think that I'm interested to see in large field tournaments what the ownership looks like on Dan Argetta. I think that people are going to look at the fact of, when this price point was put out for him, it was when he was going to take on Isaac Dulgarian. Dulgarian pulled out of this fight earlier on this week, and now Nick steps up in here. So I think there's going to be people who are going to say, man, you got a fighter on DraftKings that's priced at 8,600, but he's a 5-1 betting favorite. I think that ownership may be inflated, but you talked about yesterday. If Nick is going to pull off this victory, there is a path.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the most popular plays on the slate is going to definitely be Argetta in the mid-range, massive favorite. And rightfully so, right? Like, he's had the full camp. He's been prepared for an opportunity. And you have Nick Aguirre stepping up on 5 days' notice. We don't know if he's been training consistently, but I like to believe he has been. My social media, investigation leads me to believe that he has been training, year round. He just had a fight back in early December. So he looks like a fighter that stays in the gym. I know his coach really well, and I know that, not just in fight camps, they expect their fighters to show up for other teammates and to remain consistent, because you never know when that phone call is going to happen. And, he stepped up on short notice. I do think that he's the bigger guy here, and that was pretty evident inside the weigh-ins and at the face-offs, where he kind of like dwarfed Argetta. I do think that it can be very, very close in certain situations. Standing up, I think Argetta is going to have his number. Nick Aguirre looks pretty primitive on the feet, and it looks kind of ugly. Aguirre clearly has the better jiu-jitsu. It's not even an argument for me. I think that this kid, Nick Aguirre, is very, very slick on the mat. He throws up good triangles, has a nasty guillotine, but more so than anything, he really likes to switch between a Darce choke and an anaconda choke, which is kind of like a kryptonite for wrestlers, especially wrestlers that leave their neck on the outside when they're attempting too many double legs. And guess what? Dan Argetta likes to attempt a ton of double legs. Going back to his amateur career, he did get submitted by leaving his neck out there by a guy with a similar jiu-jitsu pedigree to Nick Aguirre. Amateur career is completely different than pros, and you're going to develop and improve. But I do think that even on the regional scene, and even in the Ultimate Fighter, we did see Argetta kind of like making some similar mistakes. We just saw Damon Jackson have his back and control him for the large majority of their fight, 10 minutes or so of control time. So like, I think Damon Jackson's a very strong position-oriented grappler, not necessarily an opportunistic finisher, whereas like a guy where Nick Aguirre hunts the neck consistently. Kind of reminds me of like Manny Bermudez. You remember Manny Bermudez, how like he was submitting everybody on the regional scene here in New England. Very, very slick. And I actually think that, if Aguirre wins, he scores well because he finds the next and chokes out Dan Argetta. That's his only path. I don't think he's going to beat him in a decision. I don't think he's going to knock him out. I think it's just find a slick submission, and that's about it. So I've accounted for it in some of my lineups. I've also accounted for the opposite, where Argetta completely outclasses him for 15 minutes and just shows that, having a full camp is definitely beneficial.
Of course, if you got any questions, that's why we're here. We're here to answer your questions. So let's get right into these questions here, Pete. First up, Brandon saying, I have too much Kopylov and Strickland help, LOL. I mean, look, it's when I was hand building some lineups just for some head-to-head contests, I found myself really more times than not going to Roman Kopylov more than, say, going to a Punahele Soriano. The Ribeiro Alhassan one, I found myself going to Alhassan. I mean, I think in terms of when you think that you have too much of one guy or the other, I mean, I think if, for Strickland, I think if you're above 40%, I would probably try to get that to maybe 35-ish, 30 to 35. Kopylov, I mean, look, it's a high volatility fight. I mean, I look at, these two matchups that we talk about, must roster type fights for us, at least, of Soriano Kopylov, Ribeiro Alhassan, they're boom bust fights. We can talk about boom bust in other DFS sports, like whether you're talking about NBA or NFL or whatever sport you may be playing. Those two fights to me are boom bust plays today.
Yeah, I mean, you have to recognize volatile fights and embracing the volatility. You could get 100 points, you could get 2. That's how MMA DFS is. But, the goal is to get 600 plus points. That's what we want. So, locating high ceiling plays that can get us 100 plus points, or, certain plays that can basically just do just enough to make us in a good spot to pay up for other fighters that can get us 100 points. So, it's okay if you have a lineup and you have a couple duds of single-digit performance, but that's in a GPP. If you're going cash, you want to go strictly be safe, and that's where, like in cash games, I would say stacking the main event would probably be the easiest path, is just allowing yourself to get to some points, hope that it touches the later rounds. Don't really have to back an ugly underdog, even though I'm not a big Sean Strickland guy today. That's what I would do for cash games. And then start targeting some of these big favorites. Like Argetta for cash would make a ton of sense. He's in the mid-range. He's minus 500 favorite. So, I mean, there's plenty of ways to get different for tournaments, but don't overthink it if you're playing in cash. You want safe plays all day long that can ensure, you getting to some fantasy points. We don't want to have those underperformers within a cash lineup.
When I was building my cash lineup, the two guys I started with, and I think you're going to be all about who I started my lineup with, and that's Charles Johnson and Javid Basharat. To me, when I was building a cash lineup, I'm like, I feel so comfortable with these guys. I thought it was interesting. Yeah. One of the questions I got in Discord earlier today was, it was like last man in, Umar Nurmagomedov or Charles Johnson. I was like, wow, last man in. Okay, that's kind of an interesting one. And then I'm sitting there going, ooh, man, who do I'm sitting there going, it's an interesting type question. If you find yourself in that scenario, I'm like, man, I'm like, if it's cash, I probably just go Umar just because I feel safer with that one. But I don't mind getting either one of them. I said Umar. I don't know if you would be different in that scenario.
So I actually think I would be different just because I think the finishing equity belongs more to Charles Johnson. Mm-hmm. He's fighting a lesser foe, whereas Umar Nurmagomedov is fighting Raoni Barcelos, which is a massive step up in competition from Nate Maness. But like Raoni Barcelos has been underperforming lately, and it's not I'm not a fan of Nate Maness at all.
I'm telling you this right now. People joke about getting you a new chair. I think I need the community to come together. Let's buy Pete the Heat a Nate Maness fight kit.
No, not a chance. Not a chance. Don't waste your money, please. Go donate to a charity. Do not waste your money on that because I am not going to do anything with it. That's a fight that I would look forward to in the future if that ever happened. But he's too. I think that he'd have to come up a couple weight classes because he's a big guy that for the 135-pound weight class. But I don't know. I have to tell you that I do think that, Umar Nurmagomedov fighting Raoni Barcelos, you're going to see what Umar's really made of. Either he's this next big thing, or you're going to see a busted prospect. I do think that he passes the test. I think he's going to beat Raoni Barcelos. I just kind of look at this as a good win, but not a must-have for a fantasy score. Whereas like Charles Johnson can get you, I'd say 90-plus points by knocking out Jimmy Flick when Jimmy Flick's unable to take him to the mat.
No, I think we need to get you some Nate Maness fight shorts.
Nope. Not a chance.
Dude,
I wish he was in my weight class. I really do, because I don't think his tenure in the UFC is going to be that long.
Dude, if you want I just want to just see how much this thing's cost. If you want a UFC Venom Authentic Fight Night 2.0 men's walkout hoodie, I love me some hoodies.
What's the hoodie run? $80?
You're way too low.
Get out of here.
$145
For a hoodie, Jason?
for a hoodie, yes.
That is criminal. What in the hell is going on with that? What comes with the hoodie?
It's a hoodie.
I don't know. $145. That's ridiculous. I mean,
it's
I can
crazy.
see like them doing it for like the champions. You have to pay more for the champions. Like
No, that's just the regular.
that would
That's
make
just
sense.
regular hoodie. That's regular hoodie.
Who's the worst fighter in the UFC? You got to pay $145 for their hoodie. Worst fighter in the UFC. Who is it?
Ooh, man, worst fighter in the UFC.
Who's the guy that fought? I don't think he's in the UFC anymore. But the guy who fought Khamzat Chimaev with the 0 takedown defense.
John Phillips.
Yeah, John Phillips. Imagine paying $150 for a John Phillips hoodie.
Yeah, first off, that goes in like John Phillips. He would always get booked against wrestlers when he can't stop a takedown because he's a boxer. It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. Let's get into some other questions here. Barry says, with no 88 or 8900s to pivot off the 9000s and no 74, 75, or 76, it looks like the key to be optimal rests in the 7000 to 7300 range.
I tell you, when I was making lineups and I was hand building basically everything, and I'm like, I want to leave salary on the table, but I hate the way my lineup looks. I would agree that the low end of the 7 or even the 6K range, I think, is going to be how you separate yourself. Naturally, everybody's going to be flocking to Raquel Pennington. Well, I'm surprised Raquel Pennington's not getting more ownership because I do view that as a close fight, and she spoiled the party for a ton of her opposition by just being tough. So Pennington, I'm getting to her plenty. Ribeiro, I'm getting to him. Damon Jackson's a guy that I'm kind of letting other people flock to him. He has a ton of momentum, whereas Dan Ige been stumbling inside the UFC. And then you have the two 7,700 fighters in Kopylov and Strickland. So it is very weird, but I will say that the low end of the 7K range is definitely how you separate yourself, Barry. So I would have to agree with you.
Yeah, I'm with you there as well. Trish says I'm getting a good amount of Aguilar as a punt play. I don't mind that as a punt play. I don't mind that. I mean, look, you talk about who are the fighters that have the chance to be the slate breaker today, and to me, I think you gotta look at the two Knicks on this card. They're potentially the slate breakers. I mean, we talk about Fiore. Look, his grappling jiu-jitsu is sick. He's just got to get it there. That's the big question mark is, can he get it there?
Yeah, but the issue is that his opponent's nasty on the mat too. So Rebeski's going to make it very, very difficult for that to even happen. If Fiore was fighting somebody with less hype and regional success, I would be much more apt to get to him. I have lineups with Fiore, of course, but like they're doing him no favors. This is just to get their foot in the door inside the UFC. This is an opportunity. Hopefully you make a good account of yourself and you don't get washed really quickly. But a lot of New England MMA fighters just jump at any opportunity to get inside the UFC. And next thing you know, they lose 2 in a row, 3 in a row, and they're gone. So it's like, yeah, was it worth it? Or if you were a little bit more patient, you could have been ready. So when the call does come, you can actually win or be in a competitive matchup. This is a mismatch as far as like records go, but I will tell you that Fiore's skills are pretty damn good. How about Jimmy Flick? I'm not a big Jimmy Flick guy, but if he wins, Jason, it's mostly, I think his only path is via submission. I do. That's if I was betting Jimmy Flick, that's the only thing I would pick. is flick by submission. Very good triangle chokes, very good altogether jiu-jitsu. So opportunistic submission artist. If we have Charles Johnson making a mistake, a guy of Jimmy Flick's caliber can totally capitalize. So I'm getting to him. I think he's going completely over-owned though, but he's one of the fighters at the bottom end range where it's like, yeah, if he wins, I think he scores well.
Mentioned this question coming in over from Discord. For you, Pete, Sam asking if Fiore is a black belt under Daniel Gracie or is it Renzo Gracie? I'm not sure if you know the answer to that one.
So he's out of New Hampshire. So I'll tell you, it's an affiliate. It's not Renzo directly, and it's not Daniel Gracie directly either, because Daniel Gracie's in Philly. Renzo Gracie's in New York, but it's a Renzo Gracie affiliate. I don't know. I would be lying if I told you who his direct trainer is, but like my coach Marcelo Cruz owns and operates Renzo Gracie Rhode Island, and he's a black belt under Renzo. So like, as long as you're under the banner, you're technically a Renzo Gracie black belt, but it's not directly from him, if that makes sense.
Next up, Dylan says Basharat or Dan Ige or Johnson for a FanDuel captain. This goes down to process elimination here, Pete. I would eliminate Dan Ige first. It's just because of the FanDuel scoring system and how I see Dan Ige potentially winning this matchup against Damon Jackson. I think it's a 1A, 1B situation. We're talking about Java Basharat or Charles Johnson.
Ooh. Hot take. I think Basharat breaks the slate today. I've said it. I said it on our breakdown. I really think he breaks the slate today because I think Mendoza's going to give him no other. He has to step up because Mendoza's so damn dangerous. He really reminds me of Figueiredo. Like, phenomenal power, sneaky submission skills, aggression, poor cardio. So I think he's going to come out hot out the gate. It's his UFC debut. Tons of nerves, tons of nervous energy. He's going to go out there. He might hurt Basharat. He might make things really, really dangerous and exciting in round one. Basharat's well-rounded skill set is going to be able to handle everything that comes his way, start to counter, start to pick apart Mendoza by mixing everything together. Not just a striker, not just a grappler. Literally putting it all together where you don't know what the hell's going on. En route to an inside the distance Basharat finish. So that's what I'm expecting. And this it reminds me of the Herbert Burns and Bill Algeo fight, where it's going to be fireworks, and then Bill Algeo completely broke the slate. So the only issue is Bill Algeo was mid-priced. We have Basharat as a heavy favorite. I still think he's going to pay off the salary. So I'm a big Basharat guy today.
Interesting question coming here in terms of a game theory question from Kevin. He says, I don't normally do this, but is playing everyone between 7,600 and 8,600 and not going way up the top the way to go? That's an interesting thought process here today, Pete.
Yeah, I did that at a couple lineups as well. So a lot of weeks I don't get to every fighter. There are plenty of weeks where I can basically use my analysis and watching fight film where I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to get to this guy. I just don't see a true path. And I think I'm kind of burning money at that point. This week, I kind of took like a sprinkle approach with everybody. And I did create, several lineups where I didn't touch any of the 9,000 fighters. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go mid-range all the way. And let's see. It was an interesting build. I don't know if I love it, but I don't know how many people are really accounting for that.
Cole asking, he goes, now that you guys have your own show, is there a chance of a live stream while watching fights? That may be, me and Pete we have talked about that in the past. That'd probably be something maybe for like a pay-per-view. We would probably do something along those lines, but that is something we have talked about in the past. Can
you imagine live watching this? We would have to wake each other up because I don't think it's going to be the best card. But a good pay-per-view, I'm down to do it, especially if I think that would be fun. And it'd be cool to have everybody within the community kind of like watching along. We'd have to figure out how we could do it or, reacting with us. I don't know how we could do it, but I definitely think it would be fun.
The thing about cards like this that, you're not all excited for, just because of, there's not a ton of name value on these cards, but I think these are, more times than not, these are the cards that just straight up deliver for the UFC. I mean, how many times have you walked into an event like, and then all of a sudden it's finish after finish after finish. Now watch, I probably just jinxed it, and we're gonna have 11 decisions.
Imagine. I think it's gonna be, fireworks tonight. It's first card of the year. Set the tone for the year. And I think that there's going to be some fighters on here where there's going to be a lot of MMA media discussing, like, holy moly, we got some top contenders in the future within the division. I think Umar Nurmagomedov is going to be one of the fighters everybody's talking about. I think that Basharat is going to be a name that's people are going to start saying, okay, this guy he's undefeated, and he needs to start breaking into the rankings and start challenging for the belt within the next couple of fights. I think he's probably 4 fights away. Well, bantamweight is completely loaded, so I'm excited to see how these fighters perform. I think 𝐒𝐻 too. This could be a very nice win for him against a notable name in Sean Strickland. And then I always like seeing the reactions to MMA media and the MMA fan bases out there after a card. So can't wait.
Next up, says, scary, but something tells me the ladies break the slate always happen when you least expect it. Yep. I don't love this matchup in terms of a GPP, just because of my general thought is I think the winner's probably in the 70 to 75 point range, most likely. I mean, the reality is it's likely going 15 minutes, and it just, to me, comes down to is, could Ketlen Vieira utilize grappling enough to rack up points?
Yeah, I mean, if you tell me a finish happens in this fight, I think I'd be really surprised. Like, Pennington's tough, and so is Ketlen Vieira. So I'm expecting a dogfight and it to be a close competitive matchup. I do think that the jiu-jitsu edge lies with Ketlen Vieira, but it's all about getting in top position. Like, off your back, playing guard is not the way, because Raquel Pennington's wise enough to stay out of danger and kind of just, control from the top position or reverse against the cage. So I'm not in love with the fight, but I can literally see a path to both, both things happening. Like, we did see Ketlen Vieira lose a decision to Yana Kunitskaya. I thought that was a robbery, but I think that Raquel Pennington would wash Yana Kunitskaya. So, I mean, it's definitely possible for a Pennington upset.
Next up, we got a question coming in Discord. Of course, if you want to join our Discord, totally free. Link is in the description below, so just click that link. You can join the community that we're building over at the Fight HQ Discord channel. And this one says, Pete, do you see any sleeper fights that could result in a optimal performance? Now, as much as I don't really love the Ketlen Vieira Raquel Pennington for GPP, that could be a fight that's a little bit of a sleeper. It's going to have lower ownership in terms of that matchup, especially if maybe Ketlen Vieira goes the takedown route. In terms of other sleeper ones to me, how about, and it doesn't appear that people are really getting to this fight a lot, how about the Nascimento Hernandez fight?
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, it's a very good one. I think Nascimento has the jiu-jitsu skills to make this an easy win. Back take Hernandez. Hernandez was getting his back taken and taken down repeatedly on the Contender Series against Barres. I do think that there were some moments against Altamirano where it's like, all right, Hernandez, I like you. I like how you're very tough and you're going to fight, for 15 minutes and, try to get your own takedowns and have decent volume. But I do think that he makes plenty of mistakes on the mat. So on one hand, I like a Nascimento sneaky submission. On the other hand, I do think that Hernandez is in one of the best underdog spots to win a decision, because, in a lot of his fights, even going back regionally, he's in a ton of close fights. And, I believe in my friend's team. I really do, against, Valley Flow Striking. I really like them. Mike Valley's an excellent coach. You see Bilal Muhammad there, Juliana Pena, a ton of names, and you're starting to see more guys break onto the scene. So I will be impressed to see Hernandez pull off a decision win, but I also want to see what Aguirre looks like on short notice too.
Next up says, what's your favorite GPP underdogs you're targeting for today's card? To me, I look at the two matchups that we've talked about as, pivotal matchups for this. And so when you're looking at the underdog side of that equation, we're looking at Roman Kopylov and Claudio Ribeiro. Ribeiro 7,900, Kopylov 7,700. Kopylov was a guy I found to get into more than I got to Ribeiro.
Really? Okay. I mean, I think that I would probably say the reverse of that personally, just because I do think that Punahele Soriano is good. Like, his cardio is in question, of course. Anytime that he grapples for an extended period of time, he gasses. Or if he's forced to defend takedowns, he gasses. The good thing in this situation is it's going to be a striker's delight unless Soriano chooses to chain levels and put Kopylov on his back. I think Soriano hits really damn hard. He can hurt Kopylov on the feet, but also just take him down. And if Karl Roberson is outclassing you on the mat, I think that a very strong wrestler in Punahele Soriano from Extreme Couture can do just that. Now, with that matchup in comparison to the Claudio Ribeiro Abdulrazak Alhassan, I don't trust Alhassan. I just don't. So that's why I'm getting to Ribeiro. Father Time is undefeated, and Ribeiro is reckless and wild. We saw Alhassan get put into another dimension against Khaos Williams. He's 5-5 in the UFC. I think that he's as dangerous as Ribeiro on the feet. He's fought the more notable names. He can knock out Ribeiro, but a lot of times certain fighters are bullies, and they do not handle well when they start getting bullied. So I wonder when we see guys press Alhassan backwards, and he's forced to counter. I think he's a different fighter. I think Alhassan has some sneaky wrestling upside in this matchup, and I am leaning in his favor. But straight up knockout underdogs, I think Ribeiro has the best odds to pull off an underdog win on the entire slate.
Of course, we appreciate everyone tuning in here on a Saturday afternoon, watching the Fight HQ. We've got the Q&A going on right now for UFC Vegas 67. Of course, if you want to show your support for the show, I know some people asked us about merchandise. Me and Peter are start working on some ideas, some merchandise that you guys can purchase. Also, if you want to show your support for the show, our friends over at Stokastic do have a link there below where you click that link, take advantage of that offer, and we get paid for it. So that's I mean, there's no better way to put it. If you want to show your support for the show there. Eric says, he goes, I'm almost full fading Strickland because he's so high owned and wasn't preparing for a fight. Now I'm worried the extra 10 pounds will be an advantage. Thoughts? Pete, when I think about Sean Strickland, I mean, and if we're going to have question marks about on the 𝐒𝐻 side of the equation in this one, to me, it comes down to what happens if this fight gets to the fourth round? What happens if the fight gets to the fifth round? What does that cardio look like for 𝐒𝐻? Now, Strickland is a guy, typically is a stand-up fighter, but, also a month ago, he took 140 shots from Jared Cannonier. I feel like as much as we're talking about that 10 pounds and how much it can be advantage, I feel like that's part of the story people aren't talking about is you're talking about a guy that is, stepping back inside the cage for another 5-round fight. Yes, it's up a weight class, but he did take a lot of strikes in his last fight.
Yeah, it was a weird fight, man. I didn't think that Cannonier or Strickland looked all that great in that performance, to be honest. I mean, it's kind of weird how Strickland threw 400 significant strikes and only landed 152. That is some terrible accuracy. So volume doesn't always win out. It was a close fight, decently close. But he scored 68 in a loss. That's a 5-round bout. If it goes the distance, that's why tons of people are getting to Strickland. Even in a loss, he can do enough as long as it goes the distance. In a loss years ago, I didn't even know he fought Kamaru Usman. Did you realize that? Sean Strickland fought Kamaru Usman back in 2017. I'll have to go back and watch that fight. I do not even remember that at all. But he scored 11 in a decision loss. I think the way to beat 𝐒𝐻 is to put him on his back. Phil Hawes, very dangerous striker, very good wrestler, was able to employ a pretty good game plan against 𝐒𝐻. And Sean Strickland, if he utilizes his wrestling more in fights, I think that's when he can start really approaching the title. When he stands and trades with one of the best kickboxers in the world, he's an idiot. And it's pretty clear he's an idiot. And, his ego has gotten in the way of a lot of his success. But whenever he decides to chain takedowns together, he attempted 6 against Uriah Hall, landed 4 of them. He's a complete fighter, man. It's just a matter of a matter of if he decides to do it or not. So I think 𝐒𝐻 has some very, very dangerous chokes to make Strickland say, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I don't even know if Strickland did any, fight film research on his opponent. So he could go in there, attempt a double leg, and get guillotined in the first round, and it really wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, look, you never know what's going to come out of Sean Strickland's mouth.
You don't know what the hell's going to go on.
I think that's UFC's fear. What happens if Sean Strickland ever becomes UFC champion? By the way, so I did bold predictions on my show this week for 2023. Okay. I almost went with a bold prediction. Kamaru Usman retires.
Yeah, I think that's a good prediction. His body's shot. Now he's battling hand injuries too.
You'll love one of my bold predictions though.
You better have said 𝐉𝐨𝐢𝐧 is the champion. That better be a.
Yeah,
really?
My bold prediction was 𝐉𝐨𝐢𝐧 will be a UFC champion. Then my co-host Daniel goes, "Okay, if you got to be bold, tell me what weight class." I said 170.
Ooh, I think I'd go middleweight just because I'm worried about his size. He looks humongous, and I don't know, but I think that 170 would make a ton more sense. It's easier.
It's a quicker path to
yeah, I agree. I think it's easier. I just don't know if his body can do it.
Yeah,
I'm happy you're starting to believe in Chimaev.
we all know, you're the president of the 𝐉𝐨𝐢𝐧 fan club. Next up, Oli asks, he goes, I'm not really familiar with Daniel Argetta. Fill me in. Why is he such a big favorite without a signature win on his resume?
I mean, Jason's alluded to it in the past, but we got you, Oli. It's that he was preparing for a full fight against Dulgarian. Is that his name? Dulgarian?
Yeah, Isaac Dulgarian. Yeah, he was Isaac has been training at Glory, obviously no longer there because UFC fighters know if they want to fight, they can't be at Glory at this point. And he was on a Dana White looking for a fight a year ago. And that was the card where the Nelk boys were going to sponsor a fighter. Well, it ended up being the Nelk boys weren't trying to sponsor a fighter. They were trying to manage a fighter. And that kind of played into a lot of this as well.
Yeah. Wasn't there another guy too?
Yes, that was, guys, 80.
He's out of Montoya's camp.
Yeah, he's out. I've interviewed the guy several times. He's an 85.
Yeah, he fought Anthony Hernandez, Fluffy Hernandez, and got destroyed. But he has a pretty good knockout on a regional scene. What's his name?
I'm pulling up right now. I'm having a complete brain fart on who that is. But yeah, he got signed off that card. That was Josh Frim.
There it is. Yep. What a disaster. Thank you, Mr. Guy. Mr. Guy in chat already knew it too. Good job. We have such intelligent people within the community. We really appreciate you guys. And it's really cool to have you guys going back and forth within our Discord. Make sure you guys go into the description. Join our Discord. It's free. We're in there talking about the fights, talking about plays, bets, all of that. It's cool to connect with you guys on a different level. And then if you're here with us, we appreciate you very much. If you can hit that like button, let's try to get to 67 likes. UFC Vegas 67. We really completely blew that out of the water for the breakdown show, and we appreciate that. So make sure you guys subscribe to the channel also.
Scott, I don't like where you're going with this question. Will there be a no contest tonight? I hope not. I
know, right?
I hope not.
No contest. That's the worst. So that's where the Mike Jackson effect. The worst play on the slate was awarded a win because of a no contest, and he broke the slate for everybody that played him because of the illegal shots that happened within that bout. And that's something that you can't really project. Every now and then it's going to work out for the people that are kind of accounting for strange occurrences. But yeah, let's hope not.
Next up, Mr. Guy says, I love Hernandez here. Nascimila's wrestling is bad. Hernandez doesn't throw kicks for him to catch.
I mean, I think that's a good point, but we have Nascimento as a back taker too, and taking the back is also a takedown or getting yourself into an advantageous position. So I would agree with him. He's not going to go out there and really go and shoot good double legs or anything. He tends to play guard off of his back a little bit too much. And when you're off your back just playing guard, you're losing an MMA fight for the majority. But he will really take advantage of a situation if you make a mistake and he can take your back. If you don't whizzer well, if you're not fighting in under overs well at all. So I think that 𝐒𝐈𝐶IMENTO can really chase the back. We saw Barres do it, on the Contender Series, and I was pretty worried for Hernandez.
Next up, Spencer says, who's your favorite MVP on FanDuel in cheap play? My favorite MVP, there's a couple of guys I look at, but the one I think I look at the most is 𝐉𝐨𝐽𝐵 𝐳.
Yeah, Basharat, baby. And if you look at Basharat, you're going to be like, well, he hasn't done it yet. So, like, why is it going to happen here? He's fighting a guy who's pretty damn good. On the regional scene, he's basically known for having excellent finishing skills. Against Trevin Jones, scored 65. Tony Gravely scored 82. So I hold Tony Gravely in higher regard than Trevin Jones. And you saw he basically scored 18 more points in that performance. So I do think that he's developing and getting better. I do think that finishes are to come. And from what I've seen from Mendonça, he's going to empty the tank. And then doesn't really do all that well when guys, return fire or they don't disappear on him. So I think that Basharat will be there, and then Basharat's going to turn the tide and put him away as the fight goes longer.
In terms of cheap plays over on the FanDuel side of the equation, the one that really sticks out to me is, look, we talk about it's a boom bust type play, Pete, but how about Roman Kopylov at $13?
Yeah, I think that, Punahele Soriano needs to do something about his cardio. He's a pretty muscled man, so if you can stretch him out, you saw what Brendan Allen was able to do. Brendan Allen's not really known for his prolific striking. Kopylov, if anything, is known for his good striking. I thought that, Brendan Allen overperformed in that situation. I'm like, man, all that work with Henry Hooft is starting to pay off, and he's starting to look damn good. But Brendan Allen's been pretty inconsistent. But the point is, if you can go tit for tat with Punahele Soriano and go into those later rounds, he's somewhat of a shell of himself. He's like a round one guy, round 1 or 2 or bust. So at some point, it's going to bite him, and he's going to be met with his match, and they're going to put him away in the third round when he's completely exhausted.
Yeah, I was just kind of looking at some of the betting odds. I know we really haven't talked much about the betting side of the equation here. I you mentioned kind of going a little crazy with the prop plays there with putting a parlay there together. But to me, like, I'm kind of looking at one of the ones I kind of interested me in. I want to pull up what the exact number is Dan Ige wins via decision plus 250.
Okay, so I don't hate that. I actually think there's some finishing equity there. For me, I talked about some of my crazy prop parlays. I don't like parlaying props, but this week it's kind of like the only way to get around some of these ridiculous lines that got inflated. Like the Khabib effect really inflated Umar Nurmagomedov. It's almost untouchable unless you're playing props. So here's a not so crazy prop parlay that I think is pretty possible. It's Charles Johnson to win by KO TKO in combination with the 𝐉𝐵 Basharat inside the distance. Both of those turns the parlay into plus 321. So I don't think that it's crazy. It's not like we're getting a plus 500 where I'm like, man, this is great. Plus 321 I think is still pretty damn good for Charles Johnson, TKO KO, 𝐉𝐵 Basharat inside the distance.
Next up, Scott says, he goes, now you guys have your own channel. Does the super chat money go to both of you? When our channel gets monetized, which we got to get to 1,000 subscribers, 4,000 watch hours. Yeah, super chats will come to us, and give a peek behind the curtain. We got all super chats money before, so give you a little peek behind the curtain. That money was coming to us anyway, so just give you a little peek.
We appreciated it 100%. It was great, and the goal here at Fight HQ is to build the channel, put out tons of fight content. I might have to try to see if I can set up a meeting with some of my Bellator connections, and I'm sure other people have done this, but I really feel like what'll take their sport to the next level is if they introduce some fantasy. So like imagine if we could have a conversation with Bellator or the PFL or something to get them involved in some daily fantasy, whether it's on FanDuel, whether it's a completely different platform, they create their own thing. I think there's something to be said there, and it's like an untapped market that would just expand the sport and make all of us some extra money as well. And I do think that it's something that we could, hope for. That's a goal of mine, is to basically get that done.
Next time I talk to some of the higher ups at Bellator, maybe I'll see if I can find out maybe how they could do that. I feel like for them, to me, because of kind of we know what Bellator undercards are for the most part. We know what they're about. I almost feel like they may be better of going to like a prize pick, an underdog fantasy, more playing those prop bets type situations, because of I just don't know. Because good Lord, if you gave me a DraftKings Bellator, I would just stack the prelims.
Yeah, I would too. But I mean, like they offer the fight times for a lot of the Bellator cards on Prize Picks as it is. I just think that there's more to happen, and I don't think the UFC has exclusivity. I really don't think that they do.
No, I mean, DraftKings is a partner, I guess you would say, of the UFC, an advertiser. I'm just like, by the way, speaking of Prize Picks, I just kind of looked over, we mentioned some of the things, I always like to look at that takedown prop, over here. 𝐾𝐲𝐬𝐳, I do like the more 1.5 takedowns is one that does stick out to me. Looking over the fight time, that's another one I do like to, attack as well. I would, the Puna number is at 11, and I ultimately feel like that's a less play in terms of that fight, just because of the way I see that fight going. Charles Johnson, 10 minutes. That's an interesting number, Pete.
I think it's less. I mean, I'm expecting a Charles Johnson second round finish. I think that Jimmy Flick's going to be wise enough, shell up enough, attempt takedowns, possibly threaten. And then as the fight goes on, like his body language and coming off of retirement and some dealing with some personal things to get back into the sport, kind of like a red flag for me for Jimmy Flick. I'm not a Jimmy Flick guy today. Getting to him a little bit, but I do expect Charles Johnson KO to happen at some point. So as long as his killer instinct is intact and he's there, I think that he can get the finish. It's just a matter of pulling the damn trigger. Like, let it go. Let your hands go. Like, if the finish is there, man, you got to like be like a shark in the water when you smell blood. Like, go after it, man, because when those opportunities arise, you really got to take advantage of it.
I'd say I just created a 5-player card over at Prize Picks, going more 1.5 takedowns on Vieira, less 11-minute fight time on Soriano.
Okay, that's tough, but I agree with you.
More 57.5 significant strikes on Dan Ige.
Okay.
Under 10-minute fight time on Charles Johnson. And then I'll say more on Javid Basharat's fantasy score of 105.5.
Oh my God. I mean, that's crazy, but I like it. I do like it.
Dude, how about this?
So,
Rebecca's fantasy score, his number is set at 118.5.
Yeah. So, I mean, what's that telling you? It's telling you that like a lot of people are expecting this to be a quick night for Rebecca. And I think that Basharat, those two, I combined them in a lot of my lineups. I went Rebecca 9,400 and Basharat 9,200. Obviously, it kind of really eliminates your salary, but I do think that it gives you some high finishing equity.
Let's get back to some questions here. Alex says, can you rate the 9,000 and 9,300 options and why, mainly looking at upside? So as we look at these 9,000 options that we have over there, so you got Umar Nurmagomedov at 9,300, Rebecca at 9,400, Basharat 9,200, Nascimento 9,100, Johnson 9,000. So he mentioned 9,000 and 9,300. So that takes out Rebecca out of that scenario. I mean, we've talked about liking Johnson. We talked about liking Basharat. And then the other two we're looking at is Nurmagomedov and Nascimento. Nascimento may be the guy that is being undervalued a little bit in terms of those options that people. So, I mean, I think if you're looking to get a little bit of a leverage, that may be the way to go. But if I'm ranking them, I would rank it.
said he's looking for upside, so that's how I'm
Yeah.
gonna.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm looking at, to me, it's whether I put Bosserot or Johnson at 1 and 2. They would be the top two for me in that position. Then I would probably say I would then go I would go Nurmagomedov, Nascimento.
Yeah, so I'm going Basharat, Johnson, Nurmagomedov, Nascimento as well. I do think that the step up in competition can make Umar work more. Sergey Morozov, in hindsight, was a tough debut. Like, Morozov's pretty damn talented, even if it's on short notice. And we saw what Nurmagomedov did. He attempted 11 takedowns within 2 rounds and got a second round finish and scored 111. Like, that's damn good. Anytime we can get over 110 points, that's what we want. So that's the ranking I would go with. I would go Basharat, Johnson, Nurmagomedov, Nascimento.
DraftKings single entry GPP, Raquel Pennington or Damon Jackson.
Yeah, I'm going to go Pennington. I'm not big on Damon Jackson today. Like, I don't know. I think that the last performance against Pat Sabatini, call it luck, call it being prepared, whatever. When preparation meets opportunity, I don't know. I will tell you that I didn't think that was going to happen against Sabatini. And I think that, Pennington has all the momentum in the world to pull this off, especially if she can bully, Ketlen Vieira and remain on top. So I'm going to go Pennington in that situation.
So someone in our score goes, it may disappear from FanDuel for anyone else. So I just logged on to FanDuel, and I do not see MMA.
No, it's on a drop down. I heard it's like hidden. It's like in a drop down. I saw somebody post it, but I don't know. I don't even have the app.
I'm on the app right now.
Not trying to throw shade, FanDuel, but I just don't play over there.
I'm not even seeing where. I'm only playing on DraftKings today, so.
Yeah. We got 8 minutes until fight time, baby.
Yeah, let's try to get we'll try to get some of these questions out here before we get out of here.
We're still starting at 4:00, right? They didn't push it back?
Correct. Yeah, I looked right before the show. Best value today.
I mean, I have to tell you, even though that I'm getting to Aguirre plenty, if you want to call, it is what it is, odds versus price, it's Argetta. Like, mid-priced, 500 favorite, it's him. But, like, I don't know. Charles Johnson's a massive favorite, too, and he's only at 9,000. So, I'm going to go with... I'm going to say Argetta, even though I'm not in love with his talent.
Sean Strickland winning tonight. If Sean Strickland wins, I think it's via decision. But I like 𝐉𝐸𝐺 to win the fight.
Yeah, same.
Who has the best shot of going to Takedown City?
Oh, yeah. So they mentioned they're having some issues. Okay. Well, Takedown City. I think Abdul Razak Al-Hassan can take Claudio Ribeiro to Takedown City using his judo background and just trying to survive. He attempted 4 against Joaquin Buckley and he landed 3. I really think like that's his best path to beat Ribeiro, because Ribeiro is going to be so damn dangerous on the feet and his regional tape is horrendous with defending takedowns.
Yeah, I'm just going over to Twitter, make sure we don't have any
cancellations,
last minute changes.
Yeah.
By the way,
I'll also say for takedowns. Go ahead.
I was going to say
I like Basharat a lot for takedowns.
No, I think I was going to say is I still hate late swap.
Yeah, I mean I don't know. I've been doing pretty damn well and not late swapping. I'm letting everybody else late swap and kind of sticking to my guns, and I think it's working out.
By the way, Vince Morales announced last night that he's been let go from the UFC.
What in the world? So that sucks, man.
Yeah, man. That's it's there. Let's see here. Going to ask if we're going to offer other DFS content. Yeah, we'll have. Me and Pete were literally right before the show, kind of talking about some things that we want to do as we kind of go throughout this. Stacking.
Who are we not
question.
talking about?
Stacking. Who are we not talking about?
Mendonça?
Yeah,
Johnny Barcelos?
yeah, I was thinking him. Um,
Like, I like Mendonça in the future. I just don't
may,
like this
may,
matchup for him.
to a point, Punahele Soriano. I mean, to me, the concern I have with Puna is if he doesn't get Kopylov out of there in the first 2 rounds, what does that gas tank look like in the third round? I mean, we just because we have seen how he has shown to wear down. I mean, if you go back to his Contender Series fight, he utilized wrestling, but in that third round, he just got extremely tired. That to me, and Puna may be a guy, especially on the FanDuel side of the equation at $17, that you sit there and look at and say, maybe we're not talking about him enough.
Yeah, which I don't understand because I feel like he's in the gym at all times, training with Eric Nixig at Extreme Couture. It's like, I don't know. It's kind of weird that they're not addressing the elephant in the room, which is his cardio.
Yeah, I had to laugh. I don't know if you follow Fight Ghost on Twitter. His tweet,
No.
he goes, "Welcome back to the timeline, degenerate UFC gamblers. Most important, remember bankroll management 2023. Just kidding. Let's bet every fight, every card, all year, starting now."
I can't wait. We're finally back. It felt good.
The stacking question, obviously, the main event I think would be if you were going to stack. That's where I would look at on DraftKings, not on FanDuel. Is there another fight you would stack?
I was trying to think about that, and like you have to have both. I can actually see the Johnny Barcelos and Umar Nurmagomedov fight like living up to one of the best bantamweight fights of the year. And in order for that to happen, Barcelos is going to have to make this competitive, and Umar is going to have to get like 10 takedowns in a high-paced fight. So I wouldn't be against stacking that fight. You just need a lot to go right, and I actually think that could because of the price point.
Yeah, seeing people in chat talk about FanDuel canceled the MMA slate for today and refunded fees. Wow.
What in the world?
Let's see, Hockey Freak Sean over in Discord says, I'm going with Argetta just because I believe everyone's going to be in Aguirre. You think it could work out? I think the opposite, Sean. I think that a lot of people are going to look at the fact that he's a 5-1 betting favorite, only 8,600, and I think that ownership is going to be inflated.
Yeah, 100%. That's exactly what's going to happen. Argetta is going to be one of the most popular plays on the slate.
Who wins the Edwards-Usman rematch?
Edwards for me.
You know, the thing when it comes to Kamaru Usman is, and he's talked about this over the years, is just kind of the wear and tear on his body. I think that's what it comes down to. The UFC wants that matchup in February or March. When they're going to London, that's the fight they want to headline that card. I want to say it's like March 18th. I want to say.
Yep.
It's like they're doing like 2 pay-per-views in like 3 or 4 weeks. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I like Edwards in the rematch just because of all the injuries within Kamaru Usman's career. Now you have a fighter that knows his opponent's human and knows that he can be put away. And like 25 minutes is I almost hate 25-minute fights. I have to tell you, because like MMA is so difficult to be perfect. And if you make one mistake, it also makes the sport the greatest thing ever. But like, you know what I mean? Like Israel Adesanya beating Alex Pereira, and then one sequence loses the fight, and it's just like I think 25 minutes is way too long. I personally do. I just think it's too long for an MMA fight to remain perfect. So when you see guys like Volkanovski and all these guys going out there and putting together just complete washout dominance, it's something to admire.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's of course that'll be the pay-per-view next month. Islam Makhachev and Alexander Volkanovski. That is going to be interesting to see what that salary is for that fight. I haven't even looked at the betting on. See what
I bet you Volk is going to be in the 6K.
You think?
Yeah, I think so. Guarantee it.
Let me just go look and see if we've got. Obviously, there has to be odds in that fight already.
Bet she's a 4-1 favorite.
Let's see here. Oh, Alexander Volkanovski. Islam is a anywhere from a minus 315 to a
What I
minus
tell you,
360 favorite.
what I tell you, it's ridiculous.
Oh, that
It
oh
makes
oh god, that Orange Vulcan, that fight's gonna be heavy. Everyone's gonna be looking at him because that he'll probably be a cash staple in all reality.
right. I mean, that's just silly. It's going to be, clear lineup construction is just hope he can survive enough to get some points.
Of course, we have reached fight time. We appreciate everyone tuning in here for our Q&A leading up to UFC Vegas 67. We will be over in our Discord channel if you want to keep the conversation going. Of course, just click that link there in the YouTube description. You can get access. It's free to join our Discord, and we just want to sit there and have some great conversations with you, and hopefully someone takes down some of these tournaments here today over there on DraftKings. Pete, anything else you want to mention before we get out of here?
Yeah, I just want to say again, thank you guys so much for the consistent support. Jason and I truly appreciate it. Happy to have you guys a part of the community, whether it's, checking us out on YouTube or within Discord. I definitely think that we should get a listener contest going. Jason and I are kind of going to look into that, like a little listener league. I think it'd be fun, a little fun, competitive way for us all to kind of just go against each other. And yeah, but good luck today. Hope you guys take it down. Hope you win some bets. And welcome back, UFC.
And appreciate you tuning in. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. We will be back next week for UFC 283. Not sure about the Q&A on Saturday. It's going to kind of come down to what does my schedule look like. Right. I'll have a better indication of that after Monday night. So appreciate everyone tuning in. And be sure to smash that thumbs up button. And let's see someone take down a tournament today. Talk to y'all next week.